The day I sold my algorithm for $2.3 billion was the same day Vertex Technologies fired me for underperformance. I watched from a corner table at Luciana's Cafe as their stock plummeted 43% in a single trading session, erasing $12 billion in market value in just 6 hours. My name is Mara Patel, and until 9:30 that morning, I had been the most undervalued asset at America's fifth largest tech company. "Miss Patel, your coffee." The waitress sat down my cappuccino, artfully decorated with a leaf pattern in the foam. I thanked her and took a sip, savoring both the rich espresso and the moment. Through the cafe window, I could see Vertex's gleaming headquarters tower, 68 floors of glass and steel, where I'd spent the last 7 years of my life. My phone buzzed with a Bloomberg alert. Rivian Dynamics acquires revolutionary AF framework from independent developer. Vertex Technology shares in freefall. I smiled. The article would name me. Yet that announcement would come tomorrow. For today, I was content to watch the chaos unfold anonymously. 7 years ago, I joined Vertex fresh out of MIT with a dual PhD in computational linguistics and machine learning. I had turned down offers from Google, Microsoft, and 3 promising startups because Vertex's CEO, Lance Chin, had personally recruited me, promising resources, creative freedom, and the chance to build something revolutionary. "We're going to change the world, Dr. Patel," he said, leaning across his immaculate desk. "And I want your mind to help us do it." For the first 3 years, Vertex kept its promises. I built an exceptional team, developed breakthrough natural language processing models, and delivered innovations that drove Vertex's AI assistant, Nexus, to market dominance. Then everything changed. When Lawrence stepped down, the board appointed Edward Griffin as the new CEO. Griffin had come from a management consulting background, not tech. He believed in quantifiable deliverables and optimization metrics. Within months, he had transformed Vertex from a company that valued innovation into one obsessed with quarterly numbers. My first meeting with Griffin had been a harbinger of what was to come. "Impressive background, Dr. Patel," he said, not looking up from my personnel file. "But your department's expenditures are concerning. 27 researchers for speculative projects with no immediate commercial application." "These aren't speculative projects," I explained. "We're developing the next generation of machine learning frameworks that will revolutionize how AI systems understand context and nuance. The commercial applications are enormous, but the fundamental research needs." Yes, he interrupted, finally looking up. "Everyone believes their project is revolutionary, but shareholders expect results now, not theoretical benefits someday." Within weeks, my research budget was cut by 60%. 5 of my most talented team members were reassigned to commercially viable projects, enhancing targeted advertising algorithms and developing surveillance systems for Vertex's government contracts. I fought back, securing meetings with board members and presenting data proving the long-term value of our research. For a while, it seemed to work. I was given a small team and modest resources to continue what I considered the most promising avenue of our work, an adaptive learning framework I called Synaptic. What Griffin didn't know, what no one at Vertex knew, was that I had been developing Synaptic on dual tracks. The official version, documented in Vertex's systems and shared with my team, was progressing steadily but unspectacularly. The version I worked on nights and weekends on my personal equipment was evolving into something extraordinary. It wasn't about stealing intellectual property. The fundamental research had been mine before I joined Vertex. The company owned specific applications and implementations, but not the core theoretical framework. I had been careful about that in my original contract, a detail that apparently no one in the current leadership had bothered to review. Synaptic was my life's work, an approach to machine learning that enabled AI systems to develop genuine contextual understanding rather than statistical approximations. In practical terms, it meant an AI that could truly comprehend human communication, including subtlety, emotion, and cultural context, rather than just mimicking understanding through pattern recognition. The implications were staggering. Medical diagnostic systems that could interpret not just symptoms, but their complex interrelationships, financial models that could identify potential crises before traditional indicators appeared, educational platforms that could adapt perfectly to each student's unique learning style. But Griffin couldn't see beyond the next quarterly report. To him, my work was a cost center, not an investment in the future. The situation deteriorated over the next 2 years. My team was gradually reduced to just 3 researchers. Our office space was relegated to a windowless area near the building's core. The message was clear. We were being slowly suffocated. Despite this, we made remarkable progress. Synaptic evolved from theory to functioning prototype. In private demonstrations, it outperformed every existing AI framework by orders of magnitude. It was time to present our breakthrough to leadership. I scheduled a demonstration for Griffin and the executive team, confident that once they saw what we had created, they would understand its value. The morning of the presentation, I arrived early to find my key card deactivated. At reception, I was directed to HR. "I'm afraid we're eliminating your position, Dr. Patel," said Vanessa Myers, the HR director who had recruited me 7 years earlier. She couldn't meet my eyes. "Mr. Griffin has determined that your research division hasn't met performance benchmarks." On her desk sat a termination package, 6 months severance in exchange for signing a comprehensive non-compete agreement and surrendering all claims to intellectual property developed during my employment. "May I at least present our findings to Griffin before this is finalized?" I asked. "We've achieved a breakthrough that will transform Vertex's market position." "Mr. Griffin has a very full schedule today," she replied, sliding the paperwork toward me. "He asked me to express gratitude for your contributions and to wish you well in future endeavors." I left the severance package and signed on her desk, collected my personal belongings under security's watchful eye, and walked out of Vertex Tower for what I thought would be the last time. That night, I contacted Rivian Dynamics, Vertex's most formidable competitor. Its founder, Sophia Rivian, had been trying to recruit me for years. "I want to be absolutely clear," I told her during our midnight meeting at her penthouse office. "I'm not bringing any proprietary Vertex technology. What I'm offering is my own work, developed under the carve-outs in my original employment agreement." Sophia's legal team spent 2 weeks verifying my claims, reviewing my original contract with Vertex, and confirming that Synaptic's core architecture predated my employment there. When they finally gave the green light, Sophia didn't hesitate. $2 billion plus performance bonuses and a 5-year research contract. She offered complete creative control of a new division built around my framework, and we would announce as soon as the paperwork was signed. We closed the deal at 8:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. At 9:30 a.m., as I sipped my coffee at Luciana's, Rivian's press release hit the wires. By noon, Vertex had lost more than a quarter of its market value. By closing bell, analysts were questioning whether the company could survive losing such a critical competitive advantage. My phone rang. Griffin's name appeared on the screen. "You had no right," he snapped when I answered, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "That technology belongs to Vertex." "That's not what my contract says," I replied calmly. Section 12, Paragraph 3. Frameworks, algorithms, and theoretical models developed by Dr. Patel prior to employment remain her intellectual property. Synaptic was mine before I joined Vertex. I offered it to you first, remember? The presentation you were too busy to attend. We'll sue. We'll tie this up in court for years. Your lawyers have already reviewed the documentation. That's why you're calling me instead of having them file an injunction." I paused, watching a group of Vertex employees exit the tower across the street, huddled together, faces concerned. News of the stock collapse had clearly spread. "You made a calculation, Edward. You decided my work wasn't valuable enough to support. That was your error, not mine." 3 months later, I returned to Vertex Tower, not as an employee, but as its owner. Rivian Dynamics, with Synaptic as its crown jewel, had seen its valuation soar with Sophia's backing. I led a hostile takeover of Vertex, whose stock had never recovered from its initial collapse. The boardroom, where I had once pleaded for research funding, now fell silent as I took the chair at the head of the table. Most of the faces were new. Griffin and his allies had been ousted weeks earlier, but a few veterans remained, including two who had supported my work in the past. For those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Mara Patel. I began. Some of you might remember me as the head of the Advanced AI Research Division. Others might know me as the reason Vertex's stock lost half its value in a single day last quarter. A nervous chuckle rippled through the room. Today marks a new beginning for Vertex, I continued. We're returning to the principles that made this company great: long-term thinking, investment in fundamental research, and recognition that our most valuable assets are not our patents or our products, but our people. I detailed a reorganization plan that would integrate Vertex's existing technologies with Synaptic, creating a combined platform more powerful than either company could have developed alone. I announced increased research budgets, equity packages for key technical talent, and a new corporate structure that protected innovative teams from short-term financial pressures. After the meeting, as executives filed out, Lawrence Chin, the former CEO who had hired me 7 years ago, lingered behind. I always knew you were brilliant, Mira, he said, shaking my hand. But I never imagined this outcome. Neither did I admitted. I would have been happy to build Synaptic here, to make Vertex the leader in next-generation AI. Griffin forced my hand. Lawrence nodded thoughtfully. There's a lesson here about valuing what you can't immediately measure. Griffin saw your work as a cost because he couldn't quantify its potential. The irony is that my algorithm could have predicted its own value. I replied, it's designed to see patterns and connections that traditional metrics miss. 1 year later, the combined Vertex-Rivian entity unveiled the first commercial application of the Synaptic Framework, an AI system that revolutionized medical diagnostics, reducing misdiagnosis by 87% and enabling detection of conditions at far earlier stages than previously possible. Our stock soared to record highs. Additional applications in climate modeling, material science, and education followed. I often think about Griffin, who now teaches at a business school, ironically including my story in his lectures on innovation management. According to former colleagues who've attended his talks, he frames my success as luck rather than the inevitable result of his short-sightedness. That's fine. I don't mean his recognition. The world has seen what Synaptic can do, how it's transforming industries and solving problems once thought intractable. More importantly, I've built the research organization I always dreamed of, one where brilliant minds have the resources and freedom to pursue breakthrough innovations without constant justification to people who lack the vision to see beyond the next quarter. Sometimes, revenge isn't about proving someone wrong. Sometimes, it's about proving yourself right on such a massive scale that history itself becomes your vindication. On the anniversary of my firing, I returned to Luciana's cafe and sat at the same corner table. Through the window, Vertex Tower, now emblazoned with our new combined logo, gleamed in the morning sun. I ordered a cappuccino and watched as employees streamed into the building, many wearing the company t-shirts from our recent hackathon. My thumb buzzed with a notification. Our medical diagnosis system had just received regulatory approval in the European Union, opening a market of 450 million people. Another buzz followed, a message from Sophia congratulating the team. The waitress placed my coffee on the table, the same leaf pattern decorating the foam. Some things hadn't changed. But as I looked up at the tower, where I had once been deemed expendable, I couldn't help but smile at all the things that had. In the end, Griffin had been right about one thing. Business is about calculation. He had just been using the wrong algorithm.